Welcome, everybody. First things first, as always, if I could just get a quick audio visual check, please. Let me know if you can see my charts clearly and you can hear me clearly. And we will get started. Bitcoin looking interesting, you guys. Looking quite strong. Not gonna lie, we still have a few things we gotta look at here. But before you even ask, yes, you can hear me. Perfect. Yeah, MDX are stacking the chat. Welcome, legends. Right on. Thank you very much, guys. Well, guys, as I was saying, the Bitcoin bulls are hungry right now. They look strong, but as always, we do still need to be careful at these levels. I know I've been beating a dead horse here. I've been saying this for a month or two at this point, but honestly, nothing has really changed. And that's why I'm still saying that. We're still at macro resistance. Guys, I am a structure guy. I'm not a time guy, so I don't really care how long we've been trading here. I'm basically cautiously bearish with the structure until my bearish setup gets invalidated. I'm still a little cautious with Bitcoin. I'm mostly looking for short setups as we trade into macro resistance, this macro resistance zone, you guys. But that being said, I've been mentioning in many recent streams lately that I'm actually far more bullish on altcoins than Bitcoin at this stage of the cycle for several reasons. So one is just the fact that, I mean, no matter how you look at it, Bitcoin is at resistance, right? If I zoom out, I had this bigger red box. That was basically my swing fail zone, and we're still in that level. And that's just basically pulling from our all-time highs here down to where we bottomed around 74.5K. And we have this red box up here. That 115 is basically my typical invalidation on a STUBER fib setup. And since that is the range that I have pulled, that is the resistance looking at that range. And it's a massive range, you guys. That's the thing. This range has really, it's been forming since the 20th of January, since we topped back here. We did go a little bit higher here. So it's nice to see that we do have a higher high there. But the fact that we ended up dropping that level and treating it as a swing fail, I mean, now we just have to basically see what happens. I mean, like I said, I still basically anytime we start getting into this big red pocket here, I've been, and I mentioned in my Telegram last night that we're getting back into macro resistance. Once again, I'm more interested in laddering into shorts at this level rather than longs. And, you know, as soon as I can start taking profits, I have been downsizing my positions quickly. And usually when I'm entering these trades, quite often it's like basically I hit my first target or two, and then the remaining half tends to get stopped out. That's totally fine. Or even lately, just that it is looking so strong and we do have shorts piling into the markets a little bit. You know, I don't mind even after my first target updating my stop loss. But basically on the 4 hour, I'm looking at something like this. Obviously, the zoomed out range here, I mean, nothing has changed. We still have this swing fail zone up to about 115K. Until that changes, you know, if that happens, then so be it. I'll get bullish on Bitcoin again. But honestly, I regret nothing about, I was mentioning that I was actually selling some spot Bitcoin around 110,000. I did put a bunch of that into things like Ethereum and Hyper or Hyperliquid, Hype. And you know what? Those have been far outperforming Bitcoin anyways. And even my micro coins, right? There's some micro caps that I've been following and just spot trading and stuff like that. Because again, guys, for the last month or two, when Bitcoin's at resistance, I just don't want to be too bullish on it. It doesn't necessarily even mean that I'm bearish on the market as a whole, because several things, you guys, that are going for altcoins right now. One is that if Bitcoin does go parabolic here and it just ends up smashing through this resistance and staircasing higher, or just going absolutely on a moon mission, that's going to be very good for the altcoins. But that being said, even if Bitcoin does end up selling off, or even just ranging, you know, it could be in a big range, but as soon as Bitcoin shows any health, that's when the altcoins really tend to take off, and especially at the end, if we are at the end of the market cycle, even if Bitcoin has topped. And guys, this is a huge if. I don't want to trigger anybody. If Bitcoin has topped at this point, or very close to, if we're going to top in this range here, I would still expect altcoins to get one finale run. And so basically I'm looking at them as either they're going to do very well with Bitcoin, or they're still going to end up doing their own thing, because a lot of altcoins are not near their resistance the way Bitcoin is. So again, if I'm, gun to my head, if I need to be bullish on something, it's going to be something more so like Ethereum, for example. I just want to bring up a new one from the one that I had there, because that's a shorter time frame and I don't want to change it yet. Let me pull up this chart right here. I'm just going to remove the drawings. Let's go to the daily chart. And guys, notice that Ethereum is nowhere near its macro resistance yet the way Bitcoin is, right? And that doesn't mean that it has to happen. But at this point, I would fully expect Ethereum to end up going for a nice climb and ending up hitting that same macro resistance. And you know what? I'm going to feel the same about Ethereum if it gets up to these levels and it's, showing signs of weakness, getting bearish divergences, getting swing fails, anything like that. I'm going to get a little bit more bearish on something like this as well. It's just that right now, it's not really at that sell level for me right now. This just looks like a bull flag that's breaking out. Speaking of that, I don't know how many of you guys like trading patterns, but let's just go for a measured move. If we go something like that, and notice where that bull flag ends up lining up, basically right in my STUBER pocket. So again, guys, I just think there's a lot of things favoring the altcoin side of the market right now compared to Bitcoin. Obviously, you do what works for you. There's obviously added risk with altcoins, especially if you're dabbling in some micro caps like I have been. Yeah, there's potential for very large gains, but there's also potential for just straight up 100% losses in that game, right? But even just the major altcoins, like I said, Ethereum here, I can take a look at Solana in a little bit. They just, in my opinion, they still have room to go because they're not at that level the way that, let's say, Bitcoin is, right? That's all. So I just want to be cautious on Bitcoin, even if not looking at being super bearish on the market. Just looking at trading, looking at the bullish side on assets that are going to outperform Bitcoin, so that's kind of my thoughts there. And honestly, that should make a lot of people happy, because I know realistically, most people hoping to make it big are more so looking at altcoins, and a lot of people have been devastated in the altcoin market. A lot of altcoins are never coming back, right? A lot of them are never going to their all-time highs. Over time, Bitcoin is going to be the winner. It always is. But there's phases where altcoins do very well. So I do want to take a look at both. Basically, like I said, Bitcoin, I just keep starting a short basically whenever we get into our macro resistance. Like I said, on the 4-hour here, we had this little range here that formed. So this isn't the giant one, right? Just the more immediate midterm range here. People, a lot of influencers, a lot of people on social media started getting very bullish as we traded into my 4-hour STUBER fib pocket. You guys know by now that that's not too shocking. Even if it breaks out, I mean, in that case, they're right, but we just see it happen so often. I always say that, as soon as we get up into a 4-hour STUBER fib pocket, it's basically a perfect bull trap. And that's where everybody gets vocal about how bullish it is, because everybody gets bullish at resistance. The price always looks strongest at resistance, just like it always looks weakest at support. And everyone gets scared at support. But right now, just we are getting into that resistance again. So that's basically why I started shorting again. Can even go into a 5-minute. This is my second short of the day on Bitcoin. But yeah, stop loss already at basically break even, just above my 786 here. So just a small profit. But yeah, same thing, right? On the 5-minute, basically we had a smaller STUBER fib inside that bigger STUBER fib, inside a bigger one, because that's how price action works, guys. There's always different size ranges inside other ranges, right? There's always a range and a bigger range and a bigger range. And I love when this type of thing happens where, hey, these two purple lines, this is my 786, this is my 886 of the 4-hour. And then on the 5-minute, we pull back up to that 786, 886. And, we've already hit my 0.5 target. So I've already locked in profits. And like I said, my stop loss is already in a very small profit, basically pay the fees at this point on the rest of my position. But that's how I like to trade at these levels, because honestly, as bearish as I am, as many bearish points as I make, I'm not closed-minded about it. I'm not totally against the idea of Bitcoin going and breaking out and going parabolic. Guys, I would love that just like anybody else would. I want to be very clear about that. It's not like I got rid of everything or anything like that. I would love to see crypto just absolutely explode from here. I'm just trying to look at it as a trader and look at it realistically, because that's the thing, guys. On this channel, I really like to talk about how I actually trade and the type of setups that I look for and just the type of structure that I like to react to, not so much just which direction it's going in the long run. We all know eventually it's going up because that's basically Bitcoin's program to. But as far as looking for actual trade setups, I just like to basically the way I look at leverage, and I think everybody should, is leverage should be used for that quick, easy profit and then protect yourself. The most important thing in this market is protecting yourself. So that's exactly why I've done that, right? Take a little short, take a little profits, protect myself. We'll see what happens from there. I got to see, is my Ethereum, I am in a little bit of an Ethereum long. Just from, I took this very slightly before starting the stream, basically, while I was outside. Basically, this is a strategy I talk about in almost all of my streams, actually, definitely all my streams, and I post about it in the Telegram and stuff like that. But this is the MDX Trendmaster indicator, my favorite indicator. I often mention how it's not so much each individual signal that I like using with this, but I like to really notice which way they're trending and just play the trend based on that. So as you can see here, we obviously have the sell signal, significantly higher sell signal, etc. On top of that, we got the buy, a higher buy signal, higher buy signal. So this is the one I noticed, and I ended up getting into it, taking, actually it was when we ended up reclaiming it here. As soon as we reclaimed that purple line, that's when I took my long. And again, stop losses at a very small profit basically pay my fees at this point, because I'm taking this trade based on this indicator, with basically just a strategy, how I use that indicator. And since I'm doing that, I'm also having my stop loss based on that. So since the indicator is trending so far, I don't want to take a loss on this position anymore. But like I said, I'm personally more bullish on altcoins than Bitcoin. And, you know, it's signals like this that I want to play. I want to look for STUBER fibs for things like Ethereum, Solana, stuff like that. I'm going to start taking a look at them more often on the 5-minute. You guys in the Telegram, you're probably going to see me talking about altcoins a little bit more. Those of you in my Telegram, for that matter, I did point out this one as far as micro caps, meme coins. I got into it way back at the start of February. Small position, the market cap was only like 200,000 or something. This is as degenerate as it gets, you guys. This is low cap meme coins. But again, just to show you typical market structure here, we had this STUBER fib here, and I pointed it out, I think it was about a month ago or so. Off this STUBER fib, I mean, when we came down to the, if you go from the average buying in at the 786, 886, I mean, even where it is right now, it's still up 80%. I mean, it's been selling off for the last couple hours or so, but a very nice move. And just to go to show that even something like this with a $3 million market cap and a total meme coin, you know, you can see that basic market structure still does its thing, right? We have our high, we have our higher high, we have our higher low. Lowest point between the two, we come back to that fib pocket, and boom, it's played out several times, right? I myself have been spot trading some of these low cap meme coins because they've been volatile, and that's not even with leverage, guys. That's just spot trading. But like my position on this guy from where I started to where it is now, I mean, it's up about 12.5x, but my position is actually up about 20x because I've been buying and selling along the way. So, you know, again, like I said, even though I've been bearish on Bitcoin, I've still been playing other things bullishly on the side. So the short on Bitcoin is just a beautiful hedge, if nothing else. So yeah, like I said, I really hope the market does go parabolic because all of my holdings are going to be very happy if it happens. That's all. But yeah, like I said, just trying to be realistic because we're just at potential resistance, right? Looking at the weekly chart here as well, you guys. After this, I'm going to take a look at the chat a little bit. But this is one of my favorite patterns, right? I've talked about this many times, looking for those either STUBER fib or double top, also double bottoms, whatever. But on the weekly using the RSI and looking for a very specific divergence. And it has to go from overextended conditions down towards that 70 level, or on the bottom side with bullish ones, you're going from overextended to that 30 level. But a very specific divergence. And, we have one right now, basically. And we've only actually corrected about 10% so far. And just look at the size of moves that exact divergence has called in the past. Even it's happened twice in this bull market already, right? We've seen 30% corrections with the same type of signal, with that overextended divergence on the RSI, 30%ers. So right now, I mean, maybe 10% is all it gets. Maybe this is a small one. Absolutely possible, right? But I don't want to totally turn a blind eye to this setup, that we're going at the same resistance level, but apparently we have significantly less strength in the market. So that's just something to be a little bit cautious of, right? That going with the bearish STUBER fibs, it's just, that's the only reason that I'm still looking for shorts, guys. It's not that I feel terrible about the market. I'm not scared about the market. I'm just enjoying building shorts when we get into resistance and paying myself along the way very quickly, right? I'm more of a scalper. I like to catch the swing trade if a position takes off and runs for me, but that doesn't always happen. So we're just going to have to see what happens. But going back to altcoins, you guys, my last few streams, I've been talking about the Bitcoin dominance. And I was mentioning that we were basically testing the 786 resistance level with the Bitcoin dominance on the 4-hour chart. And you can see that we tested up into this fib pocket here a little bit and have since got a rejection, right? So that's another thing that's actually favoring the altcoins right now, in my opinion. So I love to see that, as far as looking for an altcoin season, this is what you want to see. You want to see the Bitcoin dominance getting rejected and selling off from a proper resistance level, right? That's a nice sized resistance level. That's basically where we've topped out the first time since this year, basically. That's basically the highest we got. So to see us break this trend, right, we ended up losing some higher low structure. We end up losing that and then getting our 786 886 fib pocket retest there. And I love to see that reaction. Just again, another point going for altcoins over Bitcoin, in my opinion. Yeah, let me catch up on the chat a little bit, you guys. For those of you who are interested and want to see more examples of how I pull my fibs, how I look at market structure, just my general thoughts on the market and that sort of thing, you guys, I will post the QR code here up in the top left as well. The one in the bottom should work now, I believe. There's actually a new sign up bot. So if any of the QR codes don't work, there's also a link in the description down below. With joining that. Like I said, just sharing some of my trade setups, some of my ideas, my general thoughts as a whole, trying to keep a level head in all the insanity. So yeah, if that's something that interests you, get in there. As well, my partners at BloFin, so they like to give my followers promotions every once in a while. We just had one end about 2 days ago, so I feel like there's going to be a new one for you guys any day now. So we'll end up seeing with that, but that's another perk to being in there. Get some special promos for you guys. So let me catch up on the chat a little bit. Let me know, you guys, if there's any specific coins you want me to look at and what time frame. I do want to look at hype yet. That is one that I have been, I was buying aggressively a little while back, and as well, I wouldn't mind starting to trade it a little bit more. Let me just catch up here. How are you all doing today? Brian K, good to see you in here. Good morning or evening, depending where you are. A look at Supra USD on the weekly and daily. Adam and Eve. Interesting. I will take a look at this. Let me just Supra, you say. Is it? I don't know if that's on BloFin. Let's here we go. Let's just go with the, oh boy, this guy. I'm out, this guy chatting shit noise. Yeah, fair enough. See you later. Supra USD, the weekly and the daily. I can take a look at that. Let's start with the weekly. I like to zoom out first. So the first thing I see, well, there's not much data there for any indicators or anything. I do see this potential double bottom. I mean, it's jumping right out at me. I'm going to take a look at some other time frames because there might be that beautiful bullish divergence that I was just talking about on the weekly. Let me just make it green just because I want to be like that. So yeah, just a very, very clean double bottom. That's on the weekly. Let's check out the daily. There is a bit of a bullish divergence. It's not really the exaggerated extended one that I prefer. But there is something, right? I mean, either way, we're at support. You can't argue that. So even if you're looking for some sort of a, tight loss, I mean, you could always buy and then you could sell if we end up losing that support. That's probably a much bigger drop than it actually looks. But yeah, I mean, basically, if this is a project that you're interested in, I have no idea about the fundamentals by any means. I am going to zoom in and look at the 4 hour as well. But yeah, if this is something that you're interested in purchasing, period, I mean, no better time, in my opinion. We're at support, right? 4 hour, let's check this guy out. Oh, there is that overextended divergence. That is wild. That is that's not even on the double bottom that I was hoping for. This is interesting. Yeah, I don't even know how to read that. That is so ridiculous. I'm just gonna get rid of that RSI. But on the 4 hour here, what else can we see here? Volume delta, nothing coming up here. AI charting tools. We are okay. Signs of hope. We do have this higher high. So we actually ended up taking out this lower high, right? And that's from this indicator. But I totally agree with that structure because this would be our low and this is a lower low. So that means the highest point between the two is our lower high. We ended up breaking that. So at that point, that's where I look for those pullbacks, right? Whenever I'm looking for some sort of an entry, that's basically what I would wait for, that structure break followed by the pullback. Right now, we're trading right around the 786. The one thing I don't like about that for a nice, easy, obvious trade is that it already played out once, right? It hit the 0.5 fib after testing my fib pocket down here. But yeah, support is support until it's broken. So what's Trendmaster saying? Yeah, sell signal. That's not too shocking to see. I feel like that's so overextended that I just wouldn't be surprised to see this end up bouncing off support and, retesting some of this untested area here. We just dumped so far to the downside so aggressively there that I really feel like it makes sense that it would end up getting some sort of a bounce off support. Whether that's now or later, I mean, we're going to have to see. If this thing does start to go on a mission and actually staircase higher, I would be really careful about this level up here. Once you start getting to the 786, I'd start watching that level. But yeah, that's kind of a tough one, just because there isn't a ton of data and it's at historic lows kind of a thing. There's just not a lot of structure past this if we end up dropping lower, but as it stands, it is holding that as a nice little double bottom. So I can't really say anything too bad about that because, again, I'd rather be a buyer at support than to panic and sell into support and then have it bounce, right? Gary, good to see you here. Welcome. Kevin gets it. Stu always legit. I do my best, I try not to give you clickbait. I try to give you exactly how I actually feel. I just try and be realistic. I'm not promising the price goes anywhere because anyone who's going to try and promise you where the price is going, I mean, the way to trade Like, analyzing things is one thing, but actually trading and not being able to change your opinion as price structure changes, that's where you run into trouble. We love ass is crazy. Yeah, it's been doing pretty well, and it's ridiculous, and a low cap memer and all that sort of stuff. Might be crazy to be trading it, period, but hey, it's been going good for me. Dan Rab, good to see you here, brother. Yeah, Gary, I want to see this resistance crack on Bitcoin. I feel the same way. Again, you know, I would love to see us go on a moon mission, but there's just, you know, there's just some resistance up ahead. That's all there is to it. I would, and I don't even know if I'm going to be lucky enough. I would love to see us get a like an actual dump off this level and get a re-entry down at, you know, the actual range support. I mean, that would just be phenomenal. I know that may be wishing on a prayer, if anything. I don't know if we're going to get there, but I would love to see it. I would really, I still really think 93K is in the cards. I just think it would make a lot of sense for this Stuber fib eventually to play out and hit even just its first target. Doesn't have to, obviously, but I am not close-minded to the idea that we could see a bigger correction still. And again, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing for the market. That could be, well, actually long-term it might be, but it would, in my opinion, put that focus on altcoins. If altcoins can go for a rip while Bitcoin is dipping, I mean, they might get a little silly for a little bit of time. But we're going to have to see. That's just typically how the last couple market cycles, for example, after Bitcoin topped, altcoins still went on their finale run and they made some very nice gains right at the end of the cycle. So if that happens, if Bitcoin starts crashing and altcoins start pumping, that's a bit of a red flag to me. Yes, it'll be nice temporarily, but once that is over, I think that's where we would see some serious carnage in the markets. Supra, already looked at that. Chaos, what are your thoughts on the gaming crypto sector? Seems to have been violated over this entire BTC bull run. My opinion about the gaming crypto sector is that I've just never seen a crypto game that looked even remotely fun. I feel like the only people who play them are the ones who just want to farm that crypto, and it's not actually that entertaining. So I would like to see some actual good, high quality video games come out that are crypto related. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. I absolutely see the potential for it. I just don't know if it's going to be a thing this cycle or not. Look at Neo X for the same reason. Neo X, not familiar with it, but to me, this chart looks very similar to one we just looked at. Sorry, let me just get rid of some indicators to clean it up a little bit. Yeah, so basically the exact same thing as Supra, right? We just have a very clean looking double bottom. Okay, so this is going to be very micro analyzing, you guys. No, we don't have it. There's not an actual Stuber fib there. There is, you know, potential 886 support. I'm not saying that fib can't hold. It's just not a perfect Stuber fib setup. That being said, if I zoom in, it probably is. I'll get into that in a second. Just right now, the way even micro analyzing this green candle here, if that was our low and we did go lower there, the lower high would still be up here, and we never did break that. In fact, the bearish Stuber fib actually got respected very well there, right? Crazy how well that works. But yes, on the shorter time frames, I'm guessing we are in that sort of a thing from the opposite. But yeah, double bottom, there's not really any structure past that. Let's zoom into the daily. Still no lower high break. That would have been back here. I want to take a look at Trendmaster. Man, this chart, even the indicators, the exact same as that super chart. 4-hour RSI doesn't look as ridiculous. But no, that structure there technically isn't a bullish STUBER fib break at this point, because that structure would be up here. But again, we're obviously at support of the range. We're very near support. As well, on the immediate downtrend, there was actually a break, right? We could look at basically this. We ended up setting low, lower low. This would be our lower high. Again, yes, it's micro analyzing, but just looking for any early warning sign of a structure break. And there is actually something here. So even if we lose it here, I wouldn't be too surprised to see us just retest this support and get a little bounce. It's not perfect, but it's something. Again, I would rather be a buyer at support than a seller at support. Yeah, that's an interesting chart. What is it? Back to the top of that range would be, oh yeah, basically over 100% range. So there's potential for some big moves in there. Liquidation guru Stu is demand. Thank you, brother. Seriously appreciate it. Chaos as well. Love to have you guys here. Maz, pump Doge. I'll take a look at Doge. I'll do my best. There's a couple shit coins that use AAA games to earn the shit coin along with mining. Neo X is one of them. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I haven't really dove into the crypto gaming all that much, just because nothing's really caught my eye yet. I'll probably be late to the party if it does happen, but so be it. But yeah, again, that support looks nice. Oh, look who it is. The legend himself, Tony Vase, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you here. I don't have too much else I was going to go over, but yeah, Ethereum, we see, guys, with my higher trending buy signals here, we do see support holding still. So far, I'm still in my long there. And Bitcoin, we're going back up towards my resistance zone. Basically, if we break back above the 786 here, I'm going to be stopped in that small profit like I talked about. Yeah. How are you guys all feeling about the market, by the way? Do you think I'm onto something there with, first of all, altcoins looking like they want to outperform Bitcoin temporarily? Even if I do think altcoins have a little ways to go for all those reasons I mentioned earlier, that they're not at macro resistance and all that sort of stuff, but also even Bitcoin dominance, it hasn't reached my first target yet. That would be the 0.5 down here. So it has a little way to go. Realistically, when I pull these fibs like this, I like to aim for the 214 fib. This is just playing very cautiously, but really my main target is way down here for Bitcoin dominance. So if it does drop to down there, I mean, chances are we're going to see altcoins continue to climb. I mean, a lot of them have been climbing very nicely recently. I was talking about hype earlier. I've been talking about this one quite a bit, you guys, in my streams. Looking at short, I actually don't have these positions open anymore, so just going to remove my drawings. But yeah, this chart, it's just been on an absolute moon mission. This thing has been performing very well. Even when Bitcoin's been pulling back, hype has just been exploding to the upside, and it just keeps breaking more and more structure to the upside. So even the fact that we had this range back here, we pulled back. Did we even get a STUBER fib here? Like I said, I never ended up getting in a long on this or anything. No, it was front run a little bit, so that wouldn't have happened. But yeah, same thing. I'm going to pull up the Trendmaster indicator, and you can see same thing, right? We ended up printing a sell signal, but we very quickly got a higher buy signal, and then it was just the trend was continuing, right? Just on an absolute mission here. If we wanted to really microanalyze this, I would say that basically right here on the 4 hour, as long as we can hold this level, call it $39.55. As long as hype can stay above that, I mean, it's looking juicy to me. If it ends up dropping this, that's where I can start looking for a hedge. If we end up breaking that microstructure, that's where I would be looking at something like this. And that's only if it plays out like that, right? That's only if we end up breaking that structure first. I have zero interest in just YOLOing a short against this. That's the thing. Bitcoin actually has some signs of resistance here, whereas something like hype does not. It's just currently in blue sky territory. So until it forms some new structure, there's absolutely zero chance that I want to stand in front of that train. If we do see some sort of a bigger pullback and we end up, let's just say we do get that short setup I was just talking about, or we just straight up dump from here. As far as new long entries, a couple different ways you could look at playing this, in my opinion, would be one, if we drop back to the support of the previous range that we just broke out of. The other one would be on a shorter time frame. Here, let me actually erase this. I would also be interested looking at a shorter time frame. And basically, since we ended up breaking these highs, I could start looking at something like this. If we pull back towards that support that I was just looking at on the 4 hour, right? Zooming right into the 5 minute. If we start finding support anywhere basically from the 786 down towards that double bottom, even swing fail level, I'd be very interested in taking a swing at a long on something like that with a nice tight invalidation. But we'll see what we get with that one. So far, I'm just letting my spot position run on hype. Alex, welcome. Good to see you. Yeah. Be warned, shitcoins being discussed. There was a couple of them. That's okay. Yeah, Bitcoin does look like it's trying to make a move here. Again, we still have resistance. I'm happy to see the rest of my short get stopped because, like I said, first target hit very quickly. That's the thing, guys. When you're trading, remember to trade the time frame that you're actually on, because a lot of people would look at a 5-minute chart like this and just expect the floor to actually drop out if they were looking at shorting this, right? Whereas I'm looking at it as, hey, if this is the range I have pulled, being this is my fib levels, right? I have I guess here I'm going to get rid of the longer time frame ones just so you don't get confused. But this is the range I have pulled. Therefore, that is the range that I'm playing. If we get a breakout, fantastic. But I always play the range first and hope for a runner after that. Because don't get me wrong, I love hitting a home run trade. But if you're only banking on hitting home run trades off trading something like the 5-minute, you're just going to have a bad time. That's all there is to it. I'm very quick to start taking profits on positions, especially if my fib levels are hit. And from there, like I said, just getting rid of the risk, taking the quick, easy profits and protecting myself after that. And if Bitcoin ends up blasting off through this resistance, chances are my Ethereum position is going to keep running as well. So no harm, no foul. I would love to see it. Also, my altcoins, my meme coin trash, all that good stuff will continue climbing. Specifically, if Ethereum's doing well, generally the whole market is doing well at that point. The market loves when Ethereum's actually doing well. And right now it's looking great. What can we see? Let's zoom out a little bit on Ethereum here. I want to see what my indicators are saying. So that's the thing. Obviously, guys, me getting into a short up here, it's obviously a very late short, but being I have a system in place and I'm sticking to it and taking profits quickly, it doesn't really matter, right? But yeah, so far the fact that we had this lower sell signal on my trend master indicator, but we obviously broke that, right? That would have been invalidated when we basically broke right here. And since that trend got invalidated, I mean, we just absolutely took off from there. So love to see it. Yeah, that Bitcoin dominance. Like I said, guys, I love to see this. This is probably my favorite looking chart right now is the Bitcoin dominance chart. And I know a lot of people on social media are talking about it. For me, it's specifically where it got rejected, right at my fib pocket. I mean, I just love that. That's textbook STUBER fib setup right there. So that's very good for the altcoin holdings. Fart coin. Okay, I can do it. I can do it. Let's take a look. This is one I haven't looked at for a while. I was trading it for a while. I don't know why. I kind of just stopped watching it. Let's see. What has it been up to? I'm going to start on a longer time frame here. There may be a much older chart. I'm not sure, but I'm just taking a look at the BloFin chart here. Love to see that even on this micro downtrend, again, talking about very micro structure. But so for this uptrend we had here, guys, this is going to be a little structure lesson. Again, some people will think it's way too micro analyzing. I love to look for this for an early edge, but basically we had this high and a higher high. So there's our lowest point between the two. We lost that. So we started downtrend, another lower low. So at that point, our high, our lower low. Sorry, let me just clean this up a little bit. And then when we got our lower low once again, that means our highest point between these two is right here. And the fact that we've ended up breaking that, even if we pull back a little bit, I think it's in a great spot, right? Looking for a safer entry, like with a much better pullback, that's where I would pull my fibs again, right? This is where the swing changed because we broke this structure. That's where I would start to chase the price with my fib. And if we pull back to support, not saying we have to, I'm not YOLOing a short expecting us to drop down there, but if we get down there, that's a nice buy level in my opinion. If that range doesn't hold, well, then we have to entertain the idea that we're doing a full swing pullback, but it's too early to suggest that at this point. Let's take a look at the 4 hour. It's a little more clear here, right? Just a little more obvious. We have our resistance there. Let's pull up the trend master indicator here. Ooh, so it is a slightly lower buy signal as far as using this indicator, looking for a trend. I mean, don't love to see that, but I mean, we don't have a lower sell signal yet suggesting it's time to short either. Looking at just basic structure at this point, a level to watch for, I guess, as we trade a little bit higher, just because the market doesn't typically go in one direction, right? Like, I mean, we're probably not going to see the price go straight up like that. It could happen. Don't get me wrong. But realistically, the price loves to screw around and do stuff like this. So right now, where we need to start being cautious is if we get up to, sorry, let me remove the indicator. If I pull a fib something like this, that would suggest to me that there's potential resistance starting here basically at $1.4760. And then basically all the way towards 176. I mean, you got to be a little bit careful, right? The main level, like if the downtrend is going to remain very strong ever since, well, actually basically breaking here, but even if we wanted to call it here, basically this is the level. If the bears are going to remain in full control on this little downshift here, I would expect them to step in this purple box here. However, another potential setup to watch for would be setting an alert on this double top level. And if we get something that, you know, we just wick above, but then end up getting a flipping that back to resistance once again, that could be a beautiful swing fail opportunity with a nice tight stop loss if you can reshort this, if it ends up getting that swing fail, right? Because if we just blast through here, I mean, that could be a huge sign of strength. But if we do get that wick above and then come back down, that's where I would love to short the retest on something like that. Just because the invalidation's so tight, right? Because at that point you can kind of ladder into a short something like this, bring your average entry up, and then get stopped out somewhere above my 115. That's just not even saying that I would be bearish at that point. It's just a tight invalidation setup. So your risk reward is quite high on something like that. That's the only reason. Just because anywhere from the 1 to the 1.15 is basically my swing fail zone, where I love to see some sort of rejection. And that goes for the opposite side as well, right? If we ended up pulling back from here, I would feel the same about looking for longs if we pulled back something like this and then reclaim this. And I would love to long a retest on something like that. That's all. So yeah, fart coin getting very close to 4 hour resistance. It's got a little bit further to go. And again, I don't know if I'd want to short against this with Bitcoin dominance dropping and, everything kind of looking favorable for the altcoins right now. I'm having a hard time shorting altcoins right now, but yeah, just be aware that there's some resistance coming up. Trendmaster, bring this back up. Yeah, so basically, as long as I might tighten up my stop loss a little bit, just a little bit of wiggle room. But yeah, gonna let this guy run for a little bit here. Been raining. Oh no, we've had, I guess depends if you're on kilometers or miles, but we had about 80 kilometer an hour winds, or 40, 45 mile per hour, I believe that would be around. Crazy winds the last little bit. So I've actually been kite surfing a bunch. So I've been slacking on the streams a little bit, but needed a break. The body's starting to hurt. We could use a bunch of the rain. Pretty much our whole province is on fire right now. So send that rain this way. All right. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys found this stream useful. If so, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss these live streams. And as I mentioned, if you want access to my private Telegram channel where I share some of my theories, some of my trade setup ideas, just my overall thoughts on the markets in general, there is the scannable QR code on the screen, as well as there is a link down below in the description for that. With that, thank you all for being here with me during this fine afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends.